Sorry we were a little late joining the stream. Welcome back for another episode of the Silver and Blue Podcast. I'm your host, Nate Sanchez. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Corey Douglas. Corey, we've got another game week, maybe a little bit less excitement after the Dak Prescott injury, which we've talked about at length. But it doesn't matter. There's still 16 more games to play, and in order to right this ship, the Cowboys are going to need to survive for what looks like 5, maybe 6 games against. And we're starting off with the Cincinnati Bengals this week, defending AFC champions, coming to the Death Star.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those matchups. I mean, I think if when you found out the schedule for the Cowboys, I think you looked at the first 2 games and said, I mean, these are 2 really tough opponents. If you can get a split, you would be really happy with that. And now, of course, with the Dak Prescott injury, a split looks way less likely. But guess what? They're going to go out there and play 60 minutes of football, maybe even more, and kind of see who comes out on top. But I mean, definitely there are some things to talk about this game and this matchup. Some favor the Cowboys in some ways, but then on the other side, the Bengals have a lot of advantages as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out on Sunday.
Yeah, so we all know what happened to the Cowboys on Sunday, but the Bengals also just are coming off a wild loss to the Steelers in which they were down 6 late, scored a touchdown, and then Evan McPherson missed the game-winning extra point. They go to OT. They ultimately lose after several missed kicks. Just one of the wilder overtimes I've watched recently. Joe Burrow turned it over 5 times last week. So Trevon Diggs, Micah Parsons, I'm looking at you. But, just looking at key players for Cincinnati. Just looking at their line, obviously, Joe Burrow. They went out and they have upgraded their offensive line. They went out and I believe that they got Alex Kappa from Tampa Bay, which we talked about last week. Lyle Collins, who we all know and love so much, is their new right tackle. I believe they drafted Cordell Volson, who is listed as their starting left guard. So they went out and they upgraded their offensive line. They lost CJ Uzoma and brought in Hayden Hurst. So that's, kind of a lateral move there. But, this team is built on their receivers. They have an unbelievable receiving core of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. That's about as good as it gets. Jamar Chase is a bona fide superstar. T. Higgins is, since he's on the same team as Jamar Chase, he's criminally underrated. And Tyler Boyd has been a good player for a long time. So just, as far as key players on the Bengals, that wide receiver core is, star-studded to say the least.
Yeah, and just a quick note on T. Higgins. Of course, he left Sunday's game against Pittsburgh with a concussion. He was limited in practice on Wednesday, and then he missed practice today on Thursday due to a personal matter. So I am leaning towards he's probably going to play, and the Cincinnati media kind of thinks that he's going to play. Other than that, this is a pretty healthy ball club. And like you said, Jamar Chase is going to be, he's a superstar, and Joe Burrow is going to throw him the ball a lot. In Sunday's game, 16 targets, 10 catches, 129 yards, and a touchdown. And he could have probably had 2 or 3 more touchdowns in that game just based off different things that happened in that wild game. But Jamar Chase is a monster. T. Higgins is right there with him. And like you said, if Jamar Chase wasn't on that team, T. Higgins would be talked about in a similar light that Jamar Chase is talked about right now. And Tyler Boyd is just a model of consistency. He doesn't drop the ball at all. And then you go to the backfield, Joe Mixon. They can run the ball effectively as well. They're going to run the ball a lot. Joe Mixon is coming off a game where he ran the ball 27 times for 82 yards. And, his longest run was 31. So he's a guy that can hit you out of the backfield. And there's a lot of weapons on this offense. I know, going from, Uzoma to Hayden Hurst is a lateral move. But I can tell you this, since up in Cincinnati, they love Hayden Hurst right now. He made a few plays in Sunday's game against Pittsburgh. But all in all, the Cowboys defense, they're going to have their hands full with this group. And I think the biggest key for them in this game is going to be limiting the big plays and keep a lid on this defense and make the Bengals drive down the field and, on 8 to 10 play drives, and just don't let them hit you over the top with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins if he plays.
Yeah, this Bengals offense is full of home run hitters. Looking at their defense briefly, key players on their defense. One of the better defenses, underrated defenses in the NFL. Everyone attributes their Super Bowl run to Joe Burrow and the boys. Man, they got to that Super Bowl because of their defense. That's their defense won them that Tennessee game. That defense won them that Kansas City game with how they shut down Patrick Mahomes in the second half. They've got a really underrated, really good defense. They've got DJ Reader up front, who's terrific. He's a terrific nose tackle. Trey Hendrickson's one of the best edges in the NFL. Terrence Steele's going to have his hands full with or maybe Trey Hendrick. I guess Terrence he'll move around, but he's their right defensive end, so it's going to be primarily on Terrence Steele. But maybe Tyler Smith will get a couple cracks at him. BJ Hill, also very good defensive tackle. They've got an outstanding secondary with Von Bell and Jesse Bates is a really dynamic safety duo. Bates is one of the best safeties in the NFL. And Chidobe Awuzie, our old friend, is playing really good football over there in Cincinnati. They've got some really good players on their defensive roster, and they're an underrated defense, man. Everyone talked about how great their offense was and praised Joe Burrow for getting them to that Super Bowl. They got there because of that defense.
Yeah, and they're a really opportunistic defense. They can make plays on the football. They're going to, for the most part, keep things in front of you. And, even going back to this game on Sunday, you speak about the defense being the reason why they got to the Super Bowl. Well, the defense is partly why they were able to still have a chance to win the football game whenever, Joe Burrow was turning the ball over every other time. So I think, defense doesn't get enough credit. But when you have a star-studded offense, it's like that. But the Cowboys offense, once again, they have their hands full in this matchup. And it's going to be exciting to see kind of how Cooper Rush and Kellen Moore and, I guess Mike McCarthy's not involved with the offensive game plan. There's, reports out there that he might not even know the playbook. But, Kellen Moore and Cooper Rush, it's going to be important for them to kind of, come up with a game plan to kind of get the Bengals defense off of kind of what, it seems like the whole league knows the Cowboys like to do on offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's break down that Cowboys offense versus Bengals defense matchup. Let's start with Cooper Rush. Everyone says, "Oh yeah, he won them a game in Minnesota last year," and that's true. And he was very good in that game. You know who he did have in that game? He had Tyron Smith. He had Lyle Collins. He had Amari Cooper. He had Michael Gallup, who actually might play this week, by the way. He had Cedric Wilson. So all of that offensive supporting cast Cooper Rush had last year in Minnesota is more or less gone. With how rough the offense looked last week with Dak Prescott, I'm not super optimistic about how they're going to look with Cooper Rush out there against a really good defense. So I guess let's start up front. The Bengals have a really good pass rush. What's one way the Cowboys are going to be able to help themselves out up front? I think it's going to involve a lot of 12 personnel. Dalton Schultz, Jake Ferguson helping out blocking up front. But as bad as the offense was on Sunday, the Cowboys did have some success running the ball. For all the mistakes Terrence Steele made, he's still a really good run blocker. Tyler Smith was encouraging in his debut. I guess Farniok's going to be your starting left guard this week with Connor McGovern out. Tyler Biadasz showed some promise, and you still have Zach Martin. Where are we at with how the offensive and defensive lines match up?
Well, on paper, I definitely think, it looks like a bit of a mismatch. But what they're going to have to do is, Kellen Moore is probably going to have to create some misdirection to kind of, some misdirection, some quick passing games, use the backside of the backfield with maybe some screens, and just really kind of keep them off balance as far as, like I said, misdirection, play action rollouts with Cooper Rush. I mean, he's just athletic enough to be able to complete some of those passes and some of those plays. But I would say misdirection is probably the biggest key to keep the defensive line kind of off your quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. They're really going to need that run game to show up, and it looked reasonable enough on Sunday. As Ezekiel Elliott was effective at times, and Tony Pollard was pretty much a no-show. Not as much his fault, but They're going to need Elliott and Pollard to show up in a big way because, as presently constructed, these receivers are not great. CeeDee Lamb. Let's move out to our pass catchers because, it's going to be an interesting matchup up front. I think they're going to be able to run block a little bit, but they're going to have a hard time passing the ball, I think, between Trey Hendrickson against Terrence Steele most of the day. That's problematic. And then, these receivers against this pretty damn good Bengals secondary. They also have Dax Hill, their rookie first rounder playing for them. There's a lot of talent in this secondary, man. And, CeeDee Lamb, he's going to need to be a lot better, like a lot better than he was on Sunday. It sounds like they might get Michael Gallup back on Sunday. I believe he participated in 7-on-7 drills today. So Gallup's getting closer. If he's not back this week, I think he's going to be back next week based on what we're hearing. Where are you at with how the Bengals pass rush and pass defense is going to match up with the O-line and the receivers, with or without Gallup?
With Gallup, I don't really think it changes the whole much in his first game coming back off an ACL. So I'm really not counting on him for too much, to be honest with you. If he plays, I'm still looking at a scenario where he comes back next week on Monday Night Football against the Giants. But like you said at the beginning, I mean, CeeDee Lamb has to be better. I mean, he was wearing number 88. I know he didn't want to coming in, but Jerry kind of forced his hand on that. But 2 catches on 11 targets and the body language and just kind of getting himself in a mental space where, he kind of took himself out of the game. And then, he became frustrated with some of the targets he was getting. So he has to be better. It starts with him because he is like Stephen Jones even said it earlier this week, even though I'm not really trying to hear what Stephen Jones has to say and who needs to be better, because I think he could look in the mirror and see a person that needs to be better as well. But CeeDee Lamb has to be better. I need to see Jalen Tolbert active this week. I mean, he's your 3rd round pick. I can't see another week with him inactive, although it seems like it's trending towards he's going to be inactive again, which again makes 0 sense. And I mean, it's going to be a tough sledding for this passing game. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. It's going to be hard for the Cowboys to score points. It's going to be hard for the Cowboys to move the ball in the air. So I think it all comes down to really that run game, and then the passing game to maybe a Tony Pollard, lining up out of the backfield, lining up in the slot. Zeke, having him involved in the passing game to some degree. But I think that's where you're going to be able to if you have any chance of moving the ball, it's going to come on the ground or out of the backfield to the backs.
Yeah, and it's going to be on Kellen Moore to get creative because,
like I said, it's going to be hard for the Cowboys to score.
Yes, exactly. And it's going to be on Kellen Moore to make sure that they're able to put up some points on the board and be able to move the ball because, you're going to need to be able to scheme open, CeeDee Lamb. You're going to be able to scheme these guys up a little bit because this is they're behind the 8 ball in a big way here. They're behind the 8 ball with Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott currently has a broken thumb. So, it's going to be tough. This is a pretty brutal matchup for them offensively and defensively. But let's talk about the other side of the ball. Cowboys defense against the Cincinnati offense. That's kind of a Spark Notes version of what to look for on Sunday in the Cowboys offense versus the Bengals defense. So let's look at the flip side. Dallas defense against the Cincinnati offense. They turned the ball over 5 times on Sunday. They really struggled to block TJ Watt. I think this has a chance to be a really big Micah Parsons game. And if Dallas is going to win this game and pull off an upset, which, funny enough, I believe the spread in Vegas was Dallas was favored by 2 points following the Dak injury. That line has moved all the way to Cincinnati, I believe, -8 right now. So the Dak injury matters for sure. But if Dallas is going to pull off a pretty big upset, it's going to be on the back of this defense, who I thought, they struggle to stop the run a little bit, and that's going to be something Cincinnati's going to try to exploit with Joe Mixon. But, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong, those guys need to step up front. Osa Odigizua, Tristan Hill, who had a pretty nice night, Neville Gallimore, they're going to need their defensive front to carry them here a little bit because, they're going to have a chance to put some pressure on Joe Burrow. And as much as we like Lyle Collins, he struggled a lot with TJ Watt. And look where it got him.
Yeah, I think also along that line about Steelers having pressure. I think the style of quarterback that Joe Burrow plays, where he's not scared to stay in the pocket, he's not scared to wait and look for those big plays. I think that kind of goes hand in hand with a rough offensive line. So I think that's why he gets sacked as many times as he does. He got sacked 7 times on Sunday, and because he was trying to get those big plays, it led to some interceptions as well, which I was listening to his press conference on Wednesday, where he talked about, just kind of going back and taking what the defense gives him. I wouldn't expect him to get sacked 7 times again, and I also wouldn't expect him to turn the ball over 4 times again either. I believe he's like 4-1 when he's turned the ball after the following game after turning the ball over 2+ times. So I'm expecting a better Joe Burrow. But on the flip side of that, I still think the Cowboys will be able to kind of get some pressure on him just because, like I said, he stays back there. He's going to hang in the pocket. He's going to stand in there to the last possible second to where it's like, okay, I'm going down and there's nothing there. But I think his ability to stretch the field is going to be very important. He talked about Michael Parsons in the press conference, but he also talked about how Trayvon Diggs is kind of like that Minka Fitzpatrick that they played last week in Pittsburgh, where sometimes they're not always where they're supposed to be because they're going to take those risks to kind of get those takeaways. So he's, I think, very conscious of that. Now, when the stuff is flying at you full speed in a game, we'll see if he can kind of stay composed and stay within his game and stay within his plan coming into this game. But there is a big opportunity for some sacks. It's an opportunity. He's going to give you opportunities to get the ball. Whether or not you can take advantage of that is going to be the key for this defense. And like you said, if the Cowboys are going to pull off this upset, they're going to need, probably 2 takeaways to set up the offense on a short field. And it's kind of funny because I just got a notification. I guess Cooper Rush spoke to the media today, and his quote was, "I think his teammates respect him." And he says the Cowboys are ready to roll coming into this week. And, I'm not buying it, but, they're going to have to score some points if they want to win this football game. But I just thought that was a funny note that just came in.
Yeah, but funny timing on that for sure. Looking at PFF's stats from Sunday, Cincinnati's pass blocking stats, and Jonah Williams had a hell of a time on Sunday. He gave up 7 pressures, 2 of those were sacks. Cordell Volson, their left guard, gave up 7 pressures as well, 2 sacks tabbed to him. And Alex Kappa gave up 3 pressures, and Lyle Collins gave up 1 pressure. For my mathematicians at home, that is a whopping 18 pressures given up there by Cincinnati on Sunday. If this game is won, it's going to be because of that Dallas pass rush. And, Cincinnati's going to have to get creative here because that's probably the one mismatch Dallas has against Cincinnati is their offensive line. For all they did to fix their offensive line, it looks like that still might be an issue. 18 pressures is a lot. Granted, they threw the ball. They had about, according to PFF, they had 71 pass blocking sets. Let me double check here, make sure that's right.
Yeah, 53 attempts. So.
Yeah, 53 attempts, but 71. Sorry, got muted there. A lot of football that they're going to have to that they had to play last week in pass sets, and the Steelers had a field day with them. So that's one area Dallas can take advantage. Let's also look at the real quick at the Dallas secondary against their receivers, which we talked about how special those guys are. I'm a little worried about this because Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, they do this to everybody. Tyler Boyd as well, Hayden Hurst. Van Der Esch was good in pass coverage. Jaron Kearse, is out. So they're going to have to get creative a little bit to take care of Hayden Hurst. But Anthony Brown got cooked last week. Granted, he got cooked last year against Tampa and went on to have a pretty good season. So I'm not too worried about Anthony Brown yet. Trevon Diggs, Jordan Lewis, those guys, they didn't have great nights, but it certainly wasn't awful. It just was kind of a decent night from the secondary outside of Anthony Brown. How do you feel about this Cowboys secondary against Cincinnati's against Cincinnati's pass catchers.
Yeah, honestly, I think the biggest matchup and the biggest, I guess, question mark I have is how are the Cowboys going to guard Jamar Chase, number one? Because, last year Trevon Diggs did do a lot of traveling with, number one receivers, and, he had some success as well as some, some I guess you can say struggles or opportunities to improve last year. So and what Jamar Chase did to him when LSU played Alabama back in college. I don't need another repeat performance of that. So I think that's going to be number one to see how they kind of guard Jamar Chase. And then I think that kind of sets up how they guard T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. Because obviously, if you have Trevon traveling with Jamar Chase, you're going to have Anthony Brown probably traveling with T. Higgins, and then Jordan Lewis with Tyler Boyd in the slot. And I think all of those matchups I feel like are pretty even, I want to say. Like, I don't think it's an overall mismatch when you talk about individual matchups. But I think where Trevon Diggs can get himself in trouble is where if he's paying attention too much in the backfield to Joe Burrow and he doesn't have his eyes in the right places, that could become a problem. And Cincinnati they're a big, play offense, and they want to take those shots down the field. I mean, I know Joe Burrow, anytime he says he sees a one-on-one with Jamar Chase, he's throwing it to him every single time. And, he has a lot of success with it, obviously, because Jamar Chase is a damn good player. But I would say, I mean, I think it's an even matchup, but I just think they have to keep everything in front of them, and that would be the main focus.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to really need this defense to step up. And I think they're going to make the defensive front's going to make the secondary's lives a lot easier. They're able to put some heat on Joe Burrow, which I think they're going to be able to do. DeMarcus Lawrence had kind of a little bit of a menacing quote about him and Micah going up against Lyle Collins. So that should be really entertaining. Just seeing those guys matching up with their former teammates. So that'll definitely be exciting. As we wrap this up, let's talk about real quick just predictions. I'll let you go first. What are we at for predictions on Sunday?
Yeah, for my prediction for this game is I do see the Cowboys losing this football game. I just don't think the Cowboys with Cooper Rush just have enough offense. And like I said, last week it was I didn't think the Cowboys had enough answers on offense to beat Tampa Bay, and I think it's much of the same this week. I think the Bengals will score more than one offensive touchdown, which I think will put the Cowboys in a real bind. And I'm thinking a final score of like 26 to like 13. I think it's going to be very hard for the Cowboys to even get 13, but I'm going to be generous. I do think they scored one offensive touchdown this week, their first one of the season, and probably their only one of this football game. Because I mean, we've touched on this all throughout the broadcast, is that the Bengals defense is good, and I don't think Kellen Moore has enough creativity to move the ball consistent enough on this pretty good defense. So I say Bengals 26, Cowboys 13, and the Cowboys fall to 0-2.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think they get it done. They're off. Like I've said several times with Dak Prescott, their offense gave me no reason to believe that they're going to be able to do anything against Cincinnati. I do think the defense, like last week, is going to be able to keep them in the game for a little bit. And I think we're going to get another awesome Micah Parsons performance, as he tends to do. Wild stat, he has 12 and a half sacks in his last 9 games. Saw that on Twitter. That's insane. So these Cowboys have Micah Parsons, but yeah, I don't think their offense can be able to do too much against Cincinnati. It's just not a good matchup. They're going to need the defense to create some takeaways, make things happen. But I'm going to go 27-10 Cincinnati. No, I'm going to give our defense more credit than that. I'm going to say 20-10 Cincinnati, and it's going to be like a late touchdown from Dallas that makes it look closer than it is. I just don't see how their offense is going to be able to do much of anything, but I hope they prove me wrong, but I need to see it before I believe it, because Sunday was pretty disheartening. So you got
Also,
anything else?
just one quick note before we get out of here is that I think a big key to this game, and one reason why I think Joe Burrow won't make as many mistakes as he did last week, is because I don't think the Cowboys, I mean, obviously the Bengals, they fell behind like 17-3 last week. So they were in obvious passing situations. I think they'll be able to stay more balanced this week as well, which I think will be able to shorten the game from their side as well. And yeah, I just wanted to touch on that and throw that in there because I think that is a big factor in in terms of kind of what we saw from Burrow last week.
Yeah, this is just not a great matchup for Dallas. So unless you got anything else, Corey, we're gonna get on out of here. Make sure to check out everything we got going on at the Dallas Sports Fanatic at DallasSportsFanatic.com. Check out our Cowboys Twitter at Cowboys News 365. Check out our main Twitter at Dallas_Fanatic. Check out our Instagram at DAL Cowboys Fanatic. Check out Corey on Twitter at the Mr. Douglas and myself at Nate_Sant77. We got lots of great content for you on the website as well. I'm doing weekly offensive and defensive reviews, and we will also have a game preview up here pretty soon. I believe it will be dropping on Friday. So again, thank you guys for listening. Make sure to check out everything at the Dallas Sports Fanatic. We will talk to you next time on the Silver and Blue Podcast.